I'm going to be showing you a chess game that was played by Magnus Carlsen versus Tor Gulbrandsen. Magnus Carlsen, who's having from the white pieces, opens the game with the move pawn to e4 and pawn to e6. The French defends pawn to d4, pawn to d5 and knight to d2. Knight to f6, pawn to e5 and knight of d7. Knight gf3, so white is putting more defense to the d4 pawn, c5, c3, knight c6, bishop to d3 and queen to b6. And already this is a very critical position you must play very accurately. For example, black is simply threatening to play c captures d4 and after c captures d4 he will win a pawn with knight captures d4. So it might seem logical to defend this d4 pawn center with knight to b3. But the idea is after pawn to c4 you lose either of this knight or this bishop. So this is not a good plan. But after queen captures b6 we must take stock. What happens after d captures c5? Well then after bishop captures c5 and not castles but queen to e2. Already black has some ideas of queen c7 and is putting pressure on this e5 pawn. So this is not a good idea for white either. So after queen to b6, Magnus Carlsen plays the best move which is castles. So he is simply giving up this d4 pawn. Tor Gulbrandsen accepts the pawn as there was nothing else for black to do. He played c captures d4, c captures d4 and knight captures d4. Knight captures d4 and after queen captures d4, it might seem like a very dubious move continuation for white. I mean, why is he giving up this beautiful pawn center and now this e5 pawn is also weak? Contrary to many people's beliefs, this e5 pawn is actually well protected when white plays a move knight to f3. And the idea is black has wasted a lot of time simply developing the queen, this pawn and this knight and all of those pieces are exchanged. So the end result is that black has simply wasted more and more time with this queen and a pawn is a very good compensation for development. So after knight to f3, queen to b6 was played. So if you play bishop to e3, then queen captures b2 ideas are possible. So queen to a4. So Magnus Carlsen is putting pressure on this diagonal. Queen to b4, queen to c2, queen to c5. Once again, Magnus Carlsen's opponent wants to play queen captures c2, but queen to e2, simply declining it, and bishop to e7. Bishop to e3, attacking this queen, and this comes with a tempo. Queen to a5, and now bishop to g5. So the idea is after bishop to g5, white wants to exchange this dark squared bishop. After bishop to g5, if you play bishop captures g5, knight captures g5, it might seem like a good idea to play h6. But the idea is after h6, you can go for some sacrifices with knight captures c6, f captures c6, queen to g4 and then after castles you can simply play queen captures e6, king to h8 and queen to g6, queen h7 check, king f7, rook e1 and black cannot stop all the threats to the king. So let's revert back to the original position. You must not play bishop captures g5. So after bishop to g5, queen to d8. Now black is the one threatening bishop captures g5. So you must not play bishop takes e7 because after queen takes e7, black has relieved some of the pressure. Queen to e3. So simply putting more defense to this bishop and bishop takes g5. Knight takes g5, queen to e7. So once again you cannot play h6 because then knight captures e6. So let's say bishop to g6 check, king to e7 and then f4 is coming, f5, f6. Those threats are inevitable. Magnus Carlsen's opponent plays the most precise move which is queen to e7. So he's adding more defense to this e6 pawn and now came the move rook ac1. So Magnus Carlsen simply develops a rook and is putting pressure on the c8 bishop. And there is even a tactical idea behind this rook ac1 move. Magnus Carlsen's opponent told Gulbrandsen simply overlooked the move and he played the move h6. So his idea is after h6, if you play knight to f3, then black can simply castles and in this position, believe me, black is the one having the advantage because his king has come into safety and b6, bishop to a6 will come very soon. But after h6, He missed one tiny elementary move, which was queen captures a7. Bam! Why was queen captures a7 move so powerful? Well, after rook captures a7, you play rook captures c8, and you can see that this king cannot go anywhere. Queen to d8 is obvious. Rook captures d8, king captures d8, knight captures f7, and after king to e7, knight captures h8. White has simply emerged with a piece up. Should be a completely winning endgame for white. So obviously, after queen takes a7, black must not play rook takes a7. Black chose to play rook to b8, and he maybe thought, if you play knight f3, then this time I'm going to castle, and this time I have no worries. But Magnus Carlsen is not afraid. He once again plays queen captures b8, and after knight captures b8, rook captures e8, he gave a check. King to d7 was played, rook takes h8. So now black has won one rook and he has won another rook, and not only that, he has regained a bishop. So after rook captures h8, you shouldn't play h captures g5 because then rook captures b8 wins the knight on b8. You must not exchange pieces. Knight to c6 was played and knight to f3. Retreating the knight and defending this e5 pawn, f6. So black is putting pressure on this e5 pawn, bishop to b5 and f captures c5. Bishop captures c6, b captures c6, knight captures e5, king to d6 and rook to e1. King to c7, so black has brought the king back, and g3, making some breathing room for the king. Queen to b4, attacking this rook and attacking this pawn. Rook to e2, defending both threats. d4, so black is trying to push his pass pawn but to no avail. Rook to d8, queen to b5, rook d7 check, king c8, and here Magnus Carlsen delivered the final blow with rook to e4. c5 and rook to f4, and now rook captures f8 is simply not possible to defend. For example, let's say king to b8, then rook f8 is checkmate. So Magnus Carlsen's opponent plays queen captures d7, knight captures d7, and after king captures d7, he played this move and he resigned the game. Why did he resign the game? Well, you might think black has a good passer pawn, but you cannot really push it. For example, you can simply play king to f1, e5, rook f7 check, king e6, rook takes g7, king d5, and now you simply push a4, a5, and you cannot stop all threats. So after this move, king captures d7, black simply played this move and he resigned the game. Thank you for watching the video till the end, friends. I will be visiting you with more chess videos on opening chess traps, puzzles, endgame strategies, middle game strategies very soon. So subscribe to my channel so that you don't miss any of my future content. Thank you and have a great day, friends.